Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nintendo Select Podcast, a weekly Nintendo Switch retrospective and nostalgia podcast where we talk about our favorite Nintendo Switch memories. Hosted by me, Tucker Hazel.
And me, Charlie Wackles.
This week, we're looking back at Nintendo's E3 and Summer Directs of the Switch generation. We can't wait to gush about our favorite reveals, shadow drops, and Reggie moments of the Switch era with our friend, Kevin Kenson. But before we get into it, be sure to head down to the comments and tell us about some of your favorite Summer Direct moments. But we do have a guest, as we have for many of the recent episodes, and today's guest is someone pretty special. Kevin Kenson is here on the show, and Kevin, welcome. How honored are you to be one of the early guests on this? It's going to be one of the major podcasts going in the future, of course.
I honestly cannot believe my luck right now. I mean, I already had dreams and premonitions of your guys' future success, and like this. Look, I'm riding on this right now. Y'all are. This is how I come back.
Well, we'll make sure to plug your channel so that you can get maybe 5 or 6 extra subscribers off of us.
But no, in all seriousness, Kevin, it's so great to have you on this episode because I feel like you're one of the channels and YouTubers who really does a great job of not just reacting to the direct content, because I think that's what a lot of Nintendo-focused YouTubers do, but you do a great job of synthesizing and kind of digesting and helping to kind of pull apart these directs and talk more about them in depth. And so I guess one of the best ways that we can get into this conversation, though, in general, is talking about the hype that comes from these summer directs. I mean, come on. It is summer gaming season. The weather's finally nice. School is done. Jeff Keighley just had his presentation where he gets roasted by Jeff Goldblum. You know what I mean? Yeah. And now he's
setting the stage
for Nintendo, for the big boys, the real stuff to come out to play. You
and
know
the
what
meat
I mean?
and potatoes.
No. Like I know that's partially joking, but it's honestly so kind of true at the same time. Look, I don't consider myself a massive platform head guy. I'm not going to be oh yeah, Nintendo's the number one platform, or oh yeah, Xbox, PlayStation. I don't care about the plastic box. I care about the games. But that being said, especially for the last decade, I really feel like Nintendo absolutely cracked a bit of a formula. Maybe not a decade, but 5 years. They've really cracked a formula with directs that I feel like no one else has really figured out yet. You see both Xbox and PlayStation try to do the things. PlayStation kind of has a rhythm now with the state of plays. They just last second.
They don't have a very good rhythm.
And there's sometimes they've showcases. Yeah, it's very different, right?
They're
Nintendo, even when
there's
they
just need to get it checked out.
Yeah. Yeah. But even Nintendo, there's the big summer one, but they have the ones throughout the year. And even the bad ones are kind of better than a lot of other mid-tier ones from other companies. I mean, there's some. They're also, I think, more often very divisive because there's absolutely the ones where all walk away super hyped and excited, and then share that on the internet, and then someone just decides to go, "What are you talking about? That one sucked. Where's Zelda?"
Yeah, with all
it happens.
The ones where because there are these directs where there is a very heavy focus on the farming game or the JRPG or whatever, and maybe that's not intentional, but even at the end, even with very specific audiences for these directs, I don't think that there's any crew out there that cuts a presentation as well as Nintendo's video team does. I mean, seriously, from a pacing standpoint, from a tonal standpoint, from just a kind of just outlining standpoint, it all just flows and works together pretty well.
And it walks a very good balance. That's a good point, I think, to bring up is that, I think, especially in a lot of the earlier state of plays and even some of the more recent ones, I think PlayStation has a habit of getting a little too, what's the word I want to use? It's very clean, but too clean, where it almost feels just kind of stoic. It's yep, here's this trailer and announcement, and now here's the next trailer announcement. And then Xbox, when they experimented for a while, they went hard opposite. They were trying to have people talk and we're going to interview the dev for 10 minutes. And that's cool in-depth stuff to have, but it's not, a showcase isn't always the time to do that.
Agreed.
And directs, I think, walk a very nice balance of, hey, here's a reveal, but then even the way some of the trailers are constructed, the way they kind of talk about and lead into them, sometimes you do have those little bit of moments. There were a couple I forgot about until I, was getting ready for us talking about this.
I
rewatched a few old ones, and I'm oh yeah, that was a cool little idea to introduce this way and have these people talk for a little bit. It really feels like they walk that balance very well.
Yeah, and I think it speaks again to Nintendo, I think, likes to be I don't think that they think that the summer time in particular is like the best time to talk about games.
Yeah.
But it's clear that they know that the E3 time, the Summer Game Fest time directs,
it's where the
a little
energy
bit more
collects.
weight to them.
Yeah.
Because the energy is there and there's a lot more discussion around it. And so they have a little bit more fun with it, right?
Oh.
I mean, we do have brief moments in some of these earlier directs of someone like a Reggie coming out and talking.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2017 and 2018, we have Reggie talking about the game.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not fun, why bother? Stuff like that. Where it's like
line.
we don't really get that kind of personality in or personality in like just kind of having someone talk to us about a game in that way in other directs. Whereas in these, there's always something special. We always have someone actually talking to the camera where we don't always see that in some of the other non-E3, non-summer directs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a holdover a little bit in terms of the summer directs being usually where the biggest announcements happen, where certainly the most eyes are on the direct. That's a holdover from before the direct era, when E3 was basically the only place to announce games for the entire year. And I was actually just re-watching old E3s, like 20-year-old E3s, like the late GameCube, DS, early Wii. Like some of these are, I think, pretty bad showcases. But they're a lot of fun to go back to because they have to like cram everything in there. It's obviously a very different tenor from what happens now. But what's interesting is that in reality, so the summer Switch directs aren't actually that much bigger than the September one or the February, March one. There's big announcements usually in all of the 3 slots that they have directs in throughout the year. But we are focused in as SGF is coming up soon, as Nintendo's directs is going to happen. Presumably the last Switch direct of the Switch era, Switch Summer Direct Switch era, coming in the month that this is posted. We just want to talk about summer vibes, baby, Summer Game Fest season, E3 season, the hype. And just quickly to start off, what is your favorite of the summer directs of the Switch era? So that's 2017 to 2023. The 2024 one hasn't happened, and I think maybe at the end we'll sort of talk a little bit about if we think it can stand up to sort of the legacy of this. And over the course of the bulk of the episode, we're going to be going showcase by showcase and sort of talking about which ones were good, which ones were bad, which announcements happened, what are our memories with these. And so we'll sort of paint a picture, and then we'll do friend coded at the end, and we're also going to be ranking these by the end of the episode once we've got a chance to go through each of them. But Charlie, I want to start with you. What? Because we can't give all the air to our guests. Then the power will go to their head. They'll think that they're the host. It'll get complicated. But Charlie, what was your favorite of these summer E3 directs? E3 summer season.
I think it's got to be 2017 with the silver bullet. I mean, I'll get into why later on, but there's just so much to break down there, and yeah, I'm just it's so hard not to talk about that direct because it makes me so excited.
We'll talk about it very soon. It's the first one, so you'll.
There's a couple that are like. It gets very close, especially the earlier years. I mean, there's a reason for that involves just world events. But the first 3 years of directs back to back are so good. I think my personal number one though would probably be 2019.
Okay, great, yeah.
17 is very good. Like I get that choice. I understand, especially because it is very much like sets the tone. But like the Switch was already out by that point, but only for 3 months, and so it was very much like hey, now this thing's in your hands. You've played Breath of the Wild. Here's everything else to look forward to. But 19, I think, really had just in terms of like the full layout, quantity and quality, and just stuff that makes my own brain like neurons fire off. That one was big for me.
I have to actually go same as Charlie. 2017 is definitely a big one for me, and I think I'll just start off the conversation because we were going to go into the ones anyway, and 2017 is the first one. The reason why, and Charlie, I wonder if you share the same sentiment, but the reason why for me it is far and away the best, and I think that some of the sets of announcements from future ones, 2021, 2023, those ones come to mind. But why 2017 is easily my favorite is it feels all killer and no filler for me, as in this is by far the most percentage-wise a direct has ever been first party to third party. This is like almost entirely first party games, and even the ones that they have that aren't first party games, I believe the only ones that I can remember off the top of my head are Rocket League and Mario & Rabbids. Obviously, Mario & Rabbids is a Mario game, and in Rocket League they show the Mario costumes, and so this is a Nintendo Direct. There's not your fucking collection of the 16-bit game. There's not a port of something. There's not a remake. This is all first-party Nintendo games, and also, I would have to do some checking, but outside of like the minis or the partner showcases, things like that, this is also one of the shortest directs. This is like a 35-minute just nuclear core of back-to-back trailers of, in my opinion, one of the greatest runs of first-party games in Nintendo War Games history. And this is really where you saw the momentum of the Switch era happen. Yeah, okay, that January 2017 Switch presentation is where a lot of the games were revealed through 2017, but this E3 2017 Direct is them announcing games that are coming out at the end of the year. Mario & Rabbids, 2018 Kirby Star Allies is in there, 2019 Yoshi's Crafted World is in there, and one of them still hasn't come out, which is Metroid Prime 4.
I was going to say, yeah, there's one very important exception to
yeah, exactly.
things that released on that list.
But it's funny that this E3 2017 Direct is still relevant, technically. That was the last time we saw Metroid Prime 4.
Sure.
I have to stretch a little bit for that one.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, it also depends on how you want to word saw Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah. And I think that's one of, like, my biggest complaints about this Direct is I feel like, and Kevin, I'm sure, I'm curious to see where you're at with this, but I think for me, the only two flaws that I can kind of point to in this Direct are, firstly, the early era of the Switch was so defined and made interesting by like cool third-party editions, which this Direct didn't really have a ton of, which is fine in the moment. But it was like it was so good at like getting you in the moment, right? Getting you hype. And I think looking back, it may not even be the best one. I think it's just my favorite because of the time in my life that it hit, you know? But
For sure.
what do you think about it, Kevin? Like what's kind of your analysis of it?
You know, I mean, I agree with a lot of the points that were brought up, and even I'd actually push back a little bit on terms of like third-party rep, because as Tucker brought up, you know, we had Mario and Rabbids there, which yes, it's Mario, but it's also Rabbids and Ubisoft. In that same year was also Fire Emblem Warriors, which again, that's a thing where like the Musou games and stuff, they're almost second-party at this point because they've done a lot of like support stuff for other Nintendo games, and then we've had so many like Fire Emblem and Zelda, but it's still ultimately a third-party team, you know, playing with the IP. Overall was a really strong year. There are some things about the year that I think in general, looking back on, feel a little weird. You know, Metroid Prime 4 with how clearly not actually ready it was at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, they even restarted development midway through and changed devs since that reveal. And while Mario and Rabbids is like a cool game, the presentation for it was really weird. Like, I don't know if you guys rewatched this one, but that were like, and now we're going to bring on everyone's favorite CEO, Eve. And then Eve's just talking about, like, oh, yes, we're making, you know, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
With and it's very funny accent.
Yeah, it was very... Yeah, it was a little awkward feeling. And that was, I think, when they were still trying to figure out how to do, like, the not live showcase, because that was part of the point of Directs, right, is that it wasn't a on-stage thing.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing Directs for
but that was
5
one of the
years
things
at
that
that
felt
point,
a
so
little...
I don't really know if that's necessarily the problem. I think it's just that Yves Guillemot is not the most charming guy. But it is also weird. That's specifically a weird one because that's not when the game was revealed. The day before, the game had a blowout at its reveal at Ubisoft's presentation. Miyamoto came on stage and posed with Yves Guillemot. And they were holding the fucking guns, and we watched the trailer.
Yeah, and then Davide Soliani cried, and it was
And then the way it showed up in Nintendo's is like a 30-second trailer. It's like, yeah, it's happening, huh? I mean, I had watched it the day before, so it was like, oh yeah, okay, you got to show it, makes sense. But it is odd that Nintendo gave a reveal of not a massive game, but a pretty big deal game, Mario game, to another company the day before, and then they just kind of left this like it's like a vestigial like tailbone weird thing in the Direct. Like,
right, yeah. And then the only other thing about 2017 that's a little weird to me, and like I both get the choice and at the same time don't get the choice, was this was also the year where they had Pokemon Team like talk, but it was basically like, hey, we know you all want something. Soon we can't. I have nothing to show you. We're making Switch stuff. We're not sticking into the 3DS. But we can't talk about that yet.
More than 2 years, though. I mean, again, like I think it was very hype in the moment, but in hindsight, a lot of this stuff is like maybe not as exciting as it was originally billed as, right?
That's actually a good point. I think,
whereas I think like other directs from this era, like you look at like 2018, for example. Sure, Super Mario Party wasn't the hitter that I think some people had hoped it would be. I personally enjoy that game as much as pretty much any other Mario Party thing, but I'm not really ahead. Whereas like, but you look at 2018, it is all killer in terms of the game content, but the pacing is off, right?
Yeah.
You have Fortnite and Hollow Knight shadow dropping on the same day, which is nuts. You have the Smash Ultimate blowout with the Everyone Is Here moment, which for my money is the greatest E3 trailer of all time.
Yeah. Well, actually, quickly, just before we leave 2017, I want to make sure that we cover the big moments. I just want to run through what happened in this.
Right.
But
yeah, we are forgetting one big thing.
There's a couple things in here. Yeah. E3 2017 starts off with a long Xenoblade 2 trailer, Xenoblade 2 trailer confirming 2017. Kirby Star Allies is revealed. I believe it doesn't even give it a name at that point, and they say it's coming out in 2019.
Yeah, it just says 2018.
Tsunekazu Ishihara is from Pokemon Company is on screen, and he's like, "We're bringing a game to Switch. It's Pokken and Turmax DX, which has been revealed I think the week before in a Pokemon showcase. I don't remember what it was called at the time." And then he's like, "Hey, we're making an RPG game." Now, I will push back on one thing, Charlie, is technically they had an RPG game 12 months later with Let's Go. So it wasn't a full 2 years. But if you mean new generation, I understand that. And then Metroid Prime 4, we all know about that. Yoshi's Crafted World, also just called Yoshi. There wasn't a title given for that, which is funny. Fire Emblem Warriors got an actual trailer. The only other time that we had heard about that game was like the teaser from January.
Yeah.
And then Breath of the Wild DLC. The first wave.
Which was a big chunk of the direct, and I think another
and
kind of
and then Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Rocket League, and I personally think this is also a big reason why this is my favorite direct. I think another one of the greatest trailers of all time is the Jump Off Superstar Mario Odyssey ending trailer for this direct, which is just a masterclass in editing and reveals and twisting a game that already looked really cool. It was very exciting from the January reveal that we'd seen it just a couple months earlier. But the fact that they were hiding the game's big mechanic until E3 and then just got a chance to blow it out and show all these worlds. This direct is very interesting in retrospect. I think you're right, Charlie, in terms of, okay, some of these games didn't come out for a long time. And the Mario & Rabbids thing was weird. And Metroid Prime's still not even out. And we didn't even just see Pokemon, but they talked about it. But I think what was so good about this for me is, and why I mentioned it being my favorite earlier, is the fact that everything's so tightly packed together that you're moving from announcement to announcement so quickly that like the hype just builds. You're like, oh shit, oh, new Kirby game? Oh, a Pokemon game is coming soon to a console? Oh, Yoshi? Oh, Mario & Rabbids? Oh, Metroid Prime? And then this great like jubilant trailer to end it off. It's just sort of okay, you can kind of break down the individual parts and be like, oh, that's actually a little bit weird when you look at it from a certain angle. But the pacing was so key to, hell yeah. And then just ending with that and sort of like a triumphant huzzah.
Yeah, and even when you put into account like the games that ended up either not releasing yet or it was kind of a little weird in retrospect like Pokemon, part of that point is they really were like, look, Switch is already off to a great start, better than Wii U. We had a great Zelda game right away. Now we're letting you know all the other franchises are reporting in, right?
They're very
We've
much...
got the Metroid coming. We've got Pokemon coming. We've got Mario coming. We've got, it's very like the lineup is here. Even though not all of them were actually there, but they were like letting you know, hey, we're touching all these franchises. We'll talk about Donkey Kong and Star Fox some other day. But
like, it still hasn't
all
happened.
these ones, they're coming back.
Yeah, it was very much like a cards on the table all-in moment,
exactly.
right? It was, it felt... It kind of felt like, I mean, we had glimpses of what the Switch era would be, but I think this felt like kind of the real kickoff to the new era of Nintendo that we're currently kind of still in.
Yeah.
Though I think the momentum has changed and slowed.
Certainly has, yeah.
Been warped a little bit compared to what it used to be.
Yeah. But if we want to move on to E3 2018, this is an interesting one, and I think Well, I think we have a lot to say here about one thing in
18's
specific.
very weird. Yeah.
So
In a good way.
This direct shows off Torna at the beginning. There's a little bit about Let's Go. The only information given about Let's Go is that Mew will come with the Pokeball Plus accessory, which is very funny. Super Mario Party is revealed. Fire Emblem Three Houses is given its gameplay reveal trailer here. And we'd heard about the game a little bit before. There was actually, you guys remember there was a Fire Emblem specific direct in 2017?
Yeah.
That was fucking weird.
They did a big one, yeah, because it was like, here's like our last big 3DS one with the remake. We're releasing a mobile game.
Yeah.
We're doing
And it was like,
as a Fire Emblem fan, I loved it. But
wasn't it also like right before the January presentation? Wasn't it like a week or two before that? It was at a weird time.
We had to restart recording. Sorry about that.
No, it's no big deal. I mean, I'm editing it anyway, which means that's really no different. Yeah, that's fine. I'm glad you let us know, because if you had just been like annoyed the whole time, that would have made a conversation worse. So.
It was hurt my eyes a little, yeah. But yeah, 2018.
Yeah. Should I
What a year.
Should I just continue with the reading out sort of what happened, or because we did the Fire
Yeah.
Emblem
Well, I mean,
stuff.
really, because you got through most of it. I think the only thing, we got the Fire Emblem Three Houses, and then, that's the first 15 minutes of a 45-minute presentation, and the back 30 minutes is.
Yeah. Well,
Super Smash Brothers Ultimate for the Nintendo Switch system.
quickly, there's a couple other ones that we need to go through, which is
There's the very brief. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember now.
Yeah. So after Fire Emblem, there was actually the reveal of Fortnite coming to Switch, which then shadow dropped that day. And then Reggie talked about a couple other games. There was things like Overcooked and Killer Queen Black, which is a game that I think we totally forgotten about. And then Hollow Knight also gets a pretty solid showing here, and I believe that also came out around this showcase as well. Then there's a sizzle reel where there's a bunch of other games coming. Yeah, okay, Captain Toad and Paladins and stuff. But then we're 15 minutes into a 40-minute direct at this point. And that's the last game announcement. Because this E3 2017 direct, or 2018 direct was just about Smash Ultimate, frankly. It was a Smash Ultimate direct. It just tangentially had a couple other reveals before it. And then Masahiro Sakurai just gives us 30 minutes of Smash, which three of us are Smash fans. That's a great thing. But it means this direct is really, really weird.
Especially because I can't think of any other direct that had this kind of format, right? Like, they've had other directs where, maybe there's one game they spend a bit more time on, but it's 5 to 10 minutes, not 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they went deep on it, right? I mean, they do an initial trailer that's a fairly long trailer for good reason, and it's an incredible trailer, as Charlie mentioned earlier. I mean, honestly, if I had to talk, I know I said 19 is my favorite, overall direct, but moment, it's hard to beat that Smash trailer. Because, I'm not even a massive Smash head, and that trailer is one of the best constructed things ever. The whole way they just did that reveal was perfect. This is actually one of the directs that I really remember, where I was at the moment. Because it was actually, at that time, because E3 was still going on, Nintendo had the annoying habit of doing the directs the morning of, the first floor show day. So I was actually in the back seat of a car on a phone, watching the direct as we're on our way to the LA Convention Center. And I'm relaying to the driver, what's happening. Oh, yeah, they're showing off, this Mario Party game. And, oh, you can line up switches to make a bigger board. That's cool. And they never use that mechanic ever again in any other game. And it's this is pretty solid. Oh, it's Smash time. And then, losing my mind talking about oh yeah, they're confirming God, not to get too in depth on it, but that trailer, the way they do, it's this very smart opening, oh, we're gonna just introduce who the starting roster is, and it's Mario's here, obviously, and Donkey Kong and Star Fox, and here's all the regulars, and they get a couple weird ones in there. It's oh, there's Meta Knight, cool. Oh, there's this, and then they just do back to back oh, Sonic's back, and this is back, and this is back, and then the big kind of peak moment of the buildup of the roller coaster is they show Snake, because that was such a thing of they're never going to get Snake back, right? He was in one game. There's no way they're going to ever get him back.
The Kojima Konami thing was just a couple years before.
Exactly. It was a very controversial kind of thing. And so they just show that, and they know that's the big reveal, because then they put the text, everyone's here. Yeah. And then it's just rapid fire, all the reveals back to back to back. And it was such a perfectly constructed roller coaster of just cool, we know who's coming back. And then it just goes.
And it just goes, and not only does it just go, but it is paced so perfectly, not only with the reveals, but it is paced with the music, and it's showing you the stages, and it's showing you like slight differences. Like when it introduces Samus, it shows that she can charge her charge shot in midair, which she couldn't do in the past. And so, like, a little bit of background about me, this was around when I was in and or graduating high school. And like pretty much every day of my senior year of high school, I would stream Smash Bros on YouTube. That was my entire audience. Cool. That was almost my entire like content output, was playing Smash with other people. And I was also a competitive player at the time. And so I was doing a reaction stream of this with some very good friends of mine. And like Kevin, like I so vividly remember just losing my goddamn mind every 2 seconds, because I'm a huge Smash fan. And like there were so many theories that this was going to be a smaller cast, it was going to be this, it was going to be that, it was going to be a different game. And like,
it's just Smash
from a competitive standpoint, Ultimate has kind of become a bit of a dud for me, honestly. I think it might be my least favorite game that I've played competitively in the series, but I think it's still the best game overall. But and either way, the changes that they were making seemed so promising. The directional air dodges, small tweaks to different characters, the graphics, everything was just seemed perfect. and then you have that moment where everyone is here. I knew right away. I saw the Shadow Moses thing, even just like this little thing, this little like square of it, and the lightning starts coming in, and I almost destroyed my microphone. Like I broke that shit. And man, what a moment. I still go back and watch because I have that reaction somewhere on my unlisted videos on my YouTube channel. I go back and watch that frequently.
Make it listed. I need to watch that. Or hit me up. Hit me up in the download.
I'll
slide it under the table.
Trim it and send it to you. Maybe you can put it in in this episode.
That would be very fun. That'd be very fun. Yeah, I mean, God, Smash Ultimate. This Direct is hilarious, actually, because really what it is Masahiro Sakurai proving that no one can tell him no. He has such a giant pair of huevos, and he has everyone in Nintendo, in the industry, like bowing down to him, to where the Everyone Is Here trailer is a great trailer, obviously, and it would be a great trailer to reveal a game, period. But that's actually not most of what this Direct is. Over half of this Direct is Masahiro Sakurai being like, oh, did you know that Olimar's helmet cracks when he gets hit? It's like, that's not important. You don't need to tell me that. Frankly, I wouldn't even notice that if the game came out and I was playing the game. But the step-by-step breakdown of what has changed with each character and what small new tweaks have been made from the mechanics from Smash 4 that are very clear that he's listening to competitive players and taking in feedback and small things like there being battlefield modes on top of Omega modes and emitter charging and like small little tweaks. That's like 25 minutes of this Direct. That's crazy. No other game I think has ever gotten this much granular attention that is, frankly, some of it's even like too much for like Smash fans. Like, I don't really care. Why are you spending time on this? But
speak for yourself.
But he doesn't care. He thinks it's awesome, and you can feel that.
Yeah, well, and like I would say, like there have been games that have gotten that amount of granular, like in a showcase. But for Nintendo, this is certainly more of an exception, especially during the Switch era. Like that is the longest focused presentation in the Switch era as far as just going over a game. But like there is something so weirdly special about Super Smash Brothers in terms of like how it induces hype, because I think even people who were like not into the in-depth stuff were still just soaking in like every minute of that presentation, because it was a combination of like, cool, I don't necessarily need this in-depth information on how this character works, but also again it's like, oh, that's a cool attention to detail that all of ours like helmet cracks. Like there's just so many like little things like that. And Smash is such a unique game in terms of like hype. Like there are so many people who are not good at Smash at all, don't play competitively, maybe haven't even touched it since like the year it came out. But the moment there is a new Smash announcement or something about that game, they're going to lose their minds. Because just the basic concept of all these characters coming together and fighting, like you can spend that much time and I will pay attention. Because it's just such a weirdly unique game at this point still. Like no one, like PlayStation tried once to do a similar idea that didn't really work out. Like the closest you have to this is like Marvel versus Capcom. or Fortnite now, but that's different because skins versus like actual intentionally designed characters.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it was just so good. And that's what makes this year so weird because, like, no other year has this format of here's a couple, like, strong, solid announcements back to back, a couple things we're going to just gloss over real quick. And now here's Sakurai, for this long. And I think that makes it a very, like, polarizing year.
Sure.
Because if you're very into what they talk about, I mean, like, the Xenoblade DLC looked cool. I know it's not like the biggest title for them, but the Daemon X Machina reveal is actually really cool for me as someone who was starving for an Armored Core game.
That was a sick reveal.
Yeah, like that game shot itself in the foot a little bit with its demo, but like it was such a good initial trailer. And then Fire Emblem Three Houses, which like we had gotten previous trailers, but I'm pretty sure that was the first trailer that revealed officially, at least because it was leaked and rumored a long time leading up to it. I think that was the first trailer that like officially confirmed there was going to be a time skip, which isn't really a thing in other Fire Emblem games normally. So that was like a really cool moment there too. So like, it was a very quantity light year, and there were a couple, very quick, glossed over things too. But like the quality of what hit in that presentation was so good.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out. I know we've talked ad nauseum about Smash already, but we haven't mentioned what might be a reveal on par with the Everyone Is Here announcement, that being that Ridley's in the game, which was the stinger for this direct. And it's hard to imagine that was
what about Daisy?
Like in the same presentation.
Daisy was in there too. Don't
but Daisy they like glossed over. They were like, oh look, it's like a slightly different Peach, and then Ridley got like an actual in-depth like big reveal.
I'm just messing around. I don't know if you guys can tell.
It's still for me because like legitimately, actually, Daisy showing up was like the peak for my wife because she loves Daisy and has always preferred Daisy over Peach. Yeah. So she was like, yes, finally, like I can actually play as Daisy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but the Ridley, I mean, that I think is, again, it's a perfect way to close out a trailer that was massive and a game that is obviously still massive and a time-wise part of this direct that was massive. But what's interesting is actually quickly before that, Sakurai mentions, or actually maybe it was after, that there's not going to be that many newcomers. So don't expect too much, which, by the way, is also very funny because in retrospect, not only
there are quite a few.
Not only was a bunch of newcomers with DLC, but the base game, if you count Echoes, had basically the same amount of newcomers as Smash 4. So he was just being cheeky. But ending it with Ridley, which was kind of the notorious they're not going to do this character, showed that this was a game about fan service in a way that the other games certainly had been. But this was a different direction in terms of we are really going to follow the direction of the hardcore Smash fan base, because Ridley is a character that, to that point, hadn't been in a game in a decade or something. I think maybe... No,
he was in Smash 4. He was a boss.
Sure. Sorry. How about this? A Metroid game. He's not in Generation 4.
Well, yeah.
Like,
true.
He's not a relevant character at that point. But the reason they did it is because the hardcore Smash fans wanted Ridley. Like, there's very clear intention to the way they dole this out. And I think right before that is like, hey, GameCube controller support is still a thing. They're making an adapter. We're going to sell those controllers again. There's the intent of this is for you. This is for the Smash fans, which I think is very, very cool.
Yeah, no, and that's again like the big thing about that year, right? Is that it's a very specific direct, and that's why it's almost hard to rank because it's like an immediate giveaway of like what you're into, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you're big into Smash, this is one of the best directs they've done in the summer because that's what it was all about, you know?
Yeah. And it's one of the best moments. Regardless of the direct is weird overall because of its pacing, the Everyone Is Here trailer, and then subsequently, just learning about the game, is one of the best moments, personally, I would say, of gaming history. I think that there's a very, very solid argument to be made in that way.
Its only battle is with eventually, for the same game, revealing Sora. That's basically like, that's its biggest competition. It's not just everyone's here, but he's here.
Yeah.
The boy.
The boy.
Kevin, you mentioned that 2019 was your favorite.
19 is a big one for me. Yeah. And again, part of this is like, you know, what my brain's into, but I also think pacing and how it was built was a very interesting one because, you know, like I mentioned, 18 I think is very high on quality, but not really quantity. And then 17 is very high on quantity, but then at least in retrospect, the quality is a little weird because of what stuff actually happened, then didn't happen, and then just, some slightly weird choices. 19, and part of this is also because of what came next in the world and what we got in time. But like, you look at the list of some of the games announced and revealed for the Switch in 19, and it is a stacked list. And not to mention the fact that we, Smash again is just a very hype-inducing game in its own right, and they know that. And so this is the year where both the opener and the closer are DLC reveals for Smash. They hard open with Hero from Dragon Quest, which that's big for me because I'm a big RPG guy. So that's also part of the reason why this year's big for me, is because we're also getting the announcement that Dragon Quest XI's, sure, the game already got released before, but like the Switch version is now on its way with more stuff. And then there's a lot of really strong game announcements. And I think what stands out to me for this year is that it's stuff that even when it comes to things like remakes and remasters, there were some weird choices I don't think anyone saw coming.
Yeah.
Like you get the
Link's Awakening. Let me go through
remake.
this real quick, just before we dive into it. So as you said, cold open with the hero reveal, which is wasn't a big deal for me because I'm not a Dragon Quest guy, but Dragon Quest obviously is very big, and I do like that trailer for one specific reason, is that it has its own stinger, in that it's the hero trailer. And then you get to see that the other heroes are also playable. Yep. And then after that, it reveals that the moveset of is it neutral special or down special, where he switches between a bunch of Dragon Quest moves. The spells, the spell system is like a big thing of its moveset. Then we get the full reveal of actual reveal of Luigi Mansion 3, which is a phenomenal game and one of the best games of that year. Which we'd only gotten in like a quick teaser. Previous to that, then we saw the Dark Crystals strategy game.
Not every announcement was a banger that year. I will give it that.
Link's Awakening got its I think second trailer, revealing the Dungeon Maker mode. Trials of Mana Collection, Witcher port for Switch was here. Three Houses got another trailer. This is a really fucking weird one. The Resident Evil ports for Switch trailer, which is mostly just live action people in a dark room, be like, whoa,
Games are spooky.
They're in like a mansion,
and then they're like, Resident Evil 5 and 6 are coming to Switch.
And I think even like the cutout from it is the presenter being like, "Oh man, I wouldn't want to play Resident Evil in a setting like that. That looks spooky."
Then No More Heroes 3 reveal or teaser, I guess. But Contra Rogue Core again. Not every announcement is a banger.
Not everyone.
Contra Collection as well. Panzer Dragoon remake. Then some information about Sword and Shield. I believe that's where Dreadnought is shown off for the first time. What the hell is it? Oh, Astral Chain gets a little information there. There's a little information about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, the Black Order. Okay, the Firewall gets a little bit of information.
Yeah, this was a banger.
It was a very stuffed presentation.
Yeah, this is a long one. This is 42 minutes, so they had a lot of time.
Big boy.
The first Switch Mario and Sonic Olympic Games game shown off here. Then the last two things, I think, for me, the biggest are actual gameplay reveal of Animal Crossing New Horizons. This shows off placing stuff outside, the crafting, all of that. And then Tears of the Kingdom announced. So, a lot to dig in there.
Banjo.
Oh, and Banjo. Yeah. Banjo's the final stinger, yeah.
All three of those, yeah.
Which is crazy that... Oh, wait, Banjo was... for some reason, I thought Banjo was the stinger after...
No, Tears of the Kingdom.
But yeah.
I forget the order, but those were both the two closing moments. Because that was even one of those things where it's like, wow, that was already such an amazing finish. What do you mean you have another big thing to reveal?
What do you mean it's maybe one of the best games of all time? Now, we didn't see for multiple years after that, but... Yeah. True.
And for good reason. I mean, the schedule was very different going into 2020 than it was coming out of 2020. Yeah. So that's part of the issue. But yeah, like... was that not the initial reveal for Link's Awakening? I could have sworn that was...
No, it wasn't.
The first,
that was...
Was it? Okay, because I thought that was the trailer that was the first one, and then the Dungeon Builder was later, like a separate thing. Okay, I mixed that up in my head then. But yeah, so like Link's Awakening, one thing you missed that I think is super freaking cool, that was that year, Cadence of Hyrule got its reveal here too.
Oh, yeah.
Which is such an out-of-nowhere thing, right?
It wasn't announced here, it was announced in Indie
cool.
Was it announced in Indie World and they showed it again there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just flexing my knowledge.
I mean, still.
But no, totally. Yeah. There's a lot of variety
like
here. And a lot of this is 2019 stuff. And a lot of it is filling in information about things we already known about, Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Link's Awakening and Astral Chain, these things we'd already heard about. But I think that it shows a very good confidence for 2019, which is not one of the biggest years in terms of a lot of the biggest releases. There's a lot of games that Nintendo put out that year. And this E3 Direct, they were very clear of, we're giving attention to everything. We're going to make sure we remind you that these games are coming out, that you're going to be getting Link's Awakening and Astral Chain and Dragon Quest and yada, yada, yada down the line. It's great because of that. And I think ending with a couple of like really big reveals, because previously to that, there hadn't been almost any new game announcements. It was just trailers for games we already knew about, but showing off Animal Crossing gameplay and then revealing Tears of the Kingdom at the end, or the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is now in development, which we do have to be clear. This is the announcement of the teaser of that game in like the teaseriest sense. Sure. But it's very good direct.
Well, and spawned how many different theory videos of what they were going to do with the next game. It was like...
The castle's rumbling. Is it going to float?
That teaser... Yeah. What's the green lines? Why does Ganondorf look so dehydrated? Like
Play the music backwards.
Yeah, and part of why I think this year really sticks to me too is not just the variety, but also again specific things I'm into. As an RPG guy, even though it's not first party, the mono reveal stuff was like a huge deal. Sure. I don't know how much you really know about that franchise, but the reveals were 2 games. It was Trials of Mana, which was a remake, and then Collection of Mana, which was like 1, 2, and 3, which is Trials, but like in its original SNES form.
Yeah.
Until that point, that game had never come out in the U.S. That was like during I grew up very.
We got 2 versions of it on one day.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I mean, I grew up during the era of like, here's all these games you couldn't get officially in the U.S. So here's fan translations, and that was one of the big like, this is an incredible RPG that never came out in the U.S. and only people that really like went to the fan translation community like got to enjoy it, and it was like, man, I wish this could someday come out. There was even kind of running jokes about how like that fan translation team had talked to Square, being like, you can use ours, just do like officially release it here. Like we've already done the legwork for you.
It kind of strikes me as something that's kind of similar to the Live Alive reveal, which we'll be talking about later. Kind of a similar vibe.
Very similar vibe. Which, Live Alive wasn't at a summer one, but if I'm going to talk about favorite direct moments, that's very high there for me. But yeah, very similar energy, where it's this thing of like, here's this classic game that it has this specific audience never thought like this time would come. It's like a smaller scale version of like Mother 3. Like Mother 3 is like the meme of like, when will it actually officially come out? But this was that kind of energy of just like, you didn't think that this was going to come up. And now they're not only bringing it and translating it, but it's also getting a remake at the same time. And we're simultaneously announcing those things right now. So like for me,
that's
that was
another
a
like
huge
big
moment.
confidence moment, announcing a remake and that the collection is coming as well. I think that I mean, hey, I want more of that.
I think this direct marked kind of one of the things that I think the Switch is going to be known for in general in the future, as like especially in this podcast as we're discussing the legacy of the Switch and kind of the history of its impact and its place in the kind of Nintendo console canon, right? Is this was for my money kind of really when the Switch established itself as a home for classics from other generations that maybe didn't get the spotlight, especially RPGs, especially RPGs from Japan, and especially like more obscure Square Enix stuff, right? And I also think on the other side of this coin, this is kind of really when leaks started popping off for Switch era directs. I don't know if y'all remember, but the Smash reveals leaked.
Yes.
Which was a big thing. And I think that points to kind of
Hero did. I don't know
the
if Ben did
culture.
that. Am I wrong about that?
I want to say both of them.
I think both of them were, but it was like, it wasn't 100% clear if both were going to be at the event. Like we knew who the next characters were going to be, but we didn't know if one or both was going to show up. Like we knew one of them was going to show up. But it was a question of if we would see both, and then it was like,
pretty crazy
okay,
they
they're
did
both
two at the same time. Yeah.
But I think like that kind of aspect of this direct really went on to shape how discussion around a lot of Nintendo stuff,
especially now, we will get to leaks in a little bit.
And I mean, once we get to the 2023 one, that's when it starts getting real wild. Oh my god!
God. Yeah. Well, we have another one we can go by pretty quickly. We've been spending some meaty time on these first 3 for good reason. You were mentioning, Kevin, that first 3 summer directs just back to back, but years wise back to back. is a really legendary run of 3 great directs, but there wasn't a direct, a summer direct in 2020. In fact, there wasn't a direct at all in 2020. There was a mini near the start of the year. And then we got partner showcases. And the first ever Nintendo Direct mini partner showcase, or Nintendo Direct partner showcase, happened in where the Summer Direct would have happened. If I had one. And the interesting thing
well, even that was
this,
delayed, right? Because partner, it was like July, I think, right?
Yeah, but summer season. Yeah. This is the summer.
Sure, it's summer season, but really, when we talk about like summer directs and big showcases, it's June. Like June is like that era. I mean, PlayStation's trying to be cheeky right now, doing end of May. But
we do have. We did, especially at that time, we were wondering like, okay, is there going to be a direct? And the fact that nothing happened in June, like, wow, this is really, really strange. Nintendo's communication that year actually maybe warrants its own episode, frankly. But that ended up happening. And the interesting thing about this is I think the argument can be made that this is the worst presentation Nintendo's done the entire Switch generation. The July 1st Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase is like 8 minutes long. The only thing of any consequence is the more formal reveal of Shin Megami Tensei 5. But otherwise, it is Rogue Company and it is WWE 2K Battlegrounds.
Yeah. I mean, SMT5 coming back, and then SMT3 Nocturne Remake. That was, I think, revealed there. Yeah.
I think that was one that got revealed the day before, though. Or maybe that was something that also leaked.
I think it was an accidental leak, but like one of those official leaks where it's why was this on Instagram? And it's like,
Yes.
Which tends to happen with a lot of Atlas stuff for some reason. I mean, the same thing happened with Persona 3 last year.
I remember we were together when the Persona 3 remake.
We were in the car.
It was you, me, and Cam Hawkins. Yeah.
Dude, we were in the car, and I was like, "No, don't tell me. I know it's going to be there, but don't tell me." Yeah.
What is wrong with you, Atlas? Get your shit together.
So look, this year's weird, right? Because like the thing is, the partner showcase absolutely was a result of they had a different plan initially.
Yeah.
And then basically canceled that and turned it into multiple smaller directs over the year. Because like. Look, the Super Mario 35th anniversary stuff was probably originally going to be for June, and then that didn't happen until like September, right?
It didn't happen
so
like
the
2
partner
weeks
direct
before
on
the
its
games
own
were
in July is pretty terrible. But if it was like that plus Super Mario 35th and maybe a couple other things that were announced around that time,
a longer Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase happened the month later in August, which is technically still summer, and I believe there's also an Indie World that was actually pretty good around there. I remember seeing a short hike in Puyo Tetris 2. Like they did a lot of smaller stuff. But they piecemealed it out in a way that I think made most of them, except for maybe the Mario one, feel pretty bad on their own. But if it had been a mixture of... Because also, reveal Age of Calamity there. Reveal Pikmin 3 Deluxe there. Like, they had games, but they chopped it up in a really, really strange way. Yeah,
and I think one of the big things that this year actually signals, and this, I think, becomes a bit of a habit across the industry a little bit more, but Nintendo especially... this is the year where I think, especially after Metroid Prime and how Tears of the Kingdom, for very understandable reason, got delayed, this is the year where I think Nintendo begins to play the game of maybe we just announced stuff that's coming out in like 8 months.
Yeah.
At the latest. Like, let's start playing this closer to the chest, because they also just didn't know. I mean, I
can't remember actually a game after this that was announced and came out like more than a year later. Well, actually, Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2. Are actually ones that had a longer...
Different years, but not... I don't think that was 12 months apart, though.
I think no, you're right.
8 or 9 months apart, yeah.
The Thousand Year Door wasn't, but Luigi's Mansion we'll get to. That one's still not out, and that was announced in the Summer Direct last year. But for the most part, you're absolutely right in that they started holding their cards. I would say too close to your chest for late 2020, because we were like, where are the games? What, we can put out games, and they're like, "Oh, Age of Calamity." And
it was such a chaotic time, though. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, I agree with you, right? That like they were not good directs, but it's like, how could they not have been?
Yeah.
It's like, what are they supposed to do in that situation? Like, sure, maybe in retrospect they could have done the 35th anniversary stuff earlier at the same time and mixed some other stuff in. But I'm willing to bet behind the scenes they didn't even know for sure what was happening in those development pipelines. Yeah. Like 35th anniversary stuff already launched later than we would have originally expected them to, and they might not have even been sure they were going to come out then.
What's interesting about that, especially 3D All Stars, that was leaked in like what, January of 2020. I remember listening about that, and hearing about that before the pandemic hit.
Well, I mean, I think this is something that is going to be really interesting as we kind of look back at this console generation as a whole, not just the Switch era, but kind of the PS5, the lead up to PS5 and Series X coming out, where the pandemic definitely affected different companies in different ways, and we still don't know the full story about what it's like, what it was like internally at Nintendo. But there was a lot of talking at the time about how Nintendo was more affected by this than pretty much any other company. And I think that this like era of directs where they were kind of doing this weird piecemeal thing really highlights that. Where there's not there may have been a unified vision at one time, but they can't afford to have one now because they were less prepared than just about anyone else who was making games for many of the things that we've heard. We don't I can't say for sure whether I know anything, but it's going to be really interesting to see in 10, 15 years when we hear more about that.
Yeah. And even Nintendo was very forward about this, right? With Wait, sorry. Is my mic coming through?
You're fine. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, Anyways, what's really interesting too is that Nintendo was very upfront about this, where even with the partner direct, they're putting that big old warning label of due to COVID-19, I don't know. Yeah. We're going to talk about some stuff. We have some things to tell you. Don't believe all of this is going to 100% happen because I don't know.
Yeah, and they actually did that for 2 or 3 actual directs later down the line.
Yeah.
So that,
I mean, they used that quite a bit. I want to say through 21 even, they were still kind of using that because it was
Well, we can move on to 2021, E3 2021, and I think this is an interesting... This is actually fascinating. There were 3 great summer directs pre-COVID. Summer 2020, very, very strange, as we just spent 10 minutes talking about. And then we have 3... no, actually, we actually only have 2. We have 3 years. How about that? We have 3 years worth of great, consistent, cadence stuff. But, interestingly enough, we don't get 3 E3 summer Nintendo Direct showcases. But we did get very, very back into the flow with E3 2021 or Summer Showcase 2021.
I think it was still E3 though.
It was E3 for 2021. Because 2020 was when they canceled because it was just we didn't expect a worldwide pandemic. And then 21 was the weird year where it's come to our digital booth and make your little character that will attend. It was a mess. It was not good.
Didn't they dox people from that too? Wasn't there some kind of leak with information beyond what had already happened with ESA? Wasn't there some other controversy?
I think there was, but it wasn't as bad as 19's. I think it did happen again. It was guys, how? Again. But I think 19's was worse, but 21 did have that, I think, happen as well, because it was something people's profiles posted more public information than it was supposed to. It's here's this person who's attending, and there's their email and their address. And so it was more work to find those details, but they were more out there than they should have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awkward.
Well, let me quickly go through the E3 2021 Direct. And actually, I just
got another Smash stinger.
First thing was the COVID-19 thing. So you were right. It lasted an entire year. And maybe it went farther than that, but... They definitely made this. They were hey, look, but most of these games hit exactly when they thought they were. So the opening, another cold open on Kazuya being revealed for Smash, and then Sakurai gives a breakdown for his moveset, which is very interesting. That happens in a direct. The only time that a moveset breakdown ever happened within a direct. Life is Strange collection. Guardians of the Galaxy Cloud port trailer, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania revealed here, and then the first new Nintendo game reveal, Mario Party Superstars revealed, and then back to back Metroid Dread revealed, which we'll obviously talk about. Then some nonsense, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Monster Hunter Stories 2, then WarioWare Get Together. Revealed a big thing on Shin Megami Tensei 5, the Danganronpa collection, Gosh, I forgot about this. Fatal Frame, made of Blackwater,
Yep.
getting ported. And then a little bit of Sparks of Hope, which again that was a leaked game. Remember that? They just all the information for the game came out like what?
Yeah.
A day before. That was really stupid.
Ubisoft might be like the worst offender of this.
Yeah,
then,
Ubisoft is bad.
Just closing out Advanced Wars 1+2 Boot Camp, which didn't come out for a couple of years. We can kind of talk about that, but and then some information about Skyward Sword HD, which had already been revealed, and then Tears of the Kingdom's actual gameplay trailer for the first time. Gameplay reveal, very very quick trailer to end it off. But yeah, this is an interesting one because again, this kind of gets us back on track in terms of before this point we had been kind of unsure how Nintendo was going to be communicating to us. Early 2021 definitely had a good amount of games, but they were kind of piecemealed together in terms of a holdover from Mario 35 and new Pokemon Snap had been announced the year before. But E3 2021 was a return to a full actual showcase, and Tears of the Kingdom trailer, Metroid Dread, Mario Party Superstars, WarioWare Get Together, Smash reveal, Advance Wars. Nintendo committed to this one, and I think they really really delivered here.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I feel like pound for pound, this is honestly the strongest of the post-COVID showcases, to me at least. And part of that is because not only is it such an exhaustive list, aside from one of these games, which was another look, I get why it happened and why it didn't come out when it was supposed to. This one wasn't a behind-the-scenes planning time issue. But, all of this stuff was coming out within the next year. And that's a hard commitment to also deliver on. I mean, Xbox tried pulling a similar thing at one point where they're like, here's all these games coming out in the next 12 months. And then that didn't. They missed way more than one game, on that
Almost,
one.
like more than half, I feel like. It was...
Look, Silksong was on that list. That alone.
Hey,
and so
we're maybe a week away from here about that. Think about that.
Maybe,
or maybe it's 2 more years away. Who knows?
But really, this year was such for being stuff that was all coming out soon, and some of it is probably stuff that was meant to be out sooner, and now they were just able to I'm sure a few of these were catch up from 2020 of this was supposed to be fall of 2020. Never mind, that didn't happen for obvious reasons. But now we can talk about it because we know it's coming out in May or whatever. May would have already passed. You get what I'm saying, though. I feel like this was a really good catch-up year. There's one specific announcement this year that bothers me deeply for personal reasons. Overall, Mario Golf Super Rush.
No, that was revealed in the early in the year showcase.
Was it revealed in the early in the year showcase?
Yes, yeah, because it was actually out by this point.
Oh, they were doing that's right. They were still talking about it. That's right.
Or it was coming out in a couple weeks. It definitely because it came out in what, June? So late June. It must have been coming out 2 weeks later.
This one was salt on the wound for me, I guess, is better wording. Just seeing it more, just because. Look, I have nothing against Mario Golf in general, but I am one of the many fools out there that clings to the hope that someday Camelot might do RPGs again, and so it's just
oh Jesus.
Oh, no, never mind. It's golf. All right, cool.
That was kind of one of the rumors floating around, right? That Camelot's next Mario title of some kind was going to be shown off here.
I think we just knew Camelot had something to show off, and so that's a very generic thing because it's that could be Mario Golf, or it could be are we actually getting Golden Sun again? Or this wouldn't happen at a direct, but there was even a thing I remember a while back where when Capcom stopped doing Breath of Fire, Camelot was we could do it as a third party. Come on, let's. So it's this dev team that has a history of RPGs, and even Super Mario Golf has RPG elements. They roll that in, and so it's part of their pedigree. And so it's as a fan of wanting to see them do not a Mario sports game, it was just ow.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. But overall, this was a very solid year, and I think part of that is because it's doing the catch up. Also, for anyone that's a fan of tech, and the Kazuya reveal is hilarious.
Yeah.
Such a dumb joke that they just pile drive into the ground right there. It's perfection.
And I think on the opposite end of that, you have these two kind of big ass reveals bookending it, and you have Metroid Dread, which for my money was especially at the time kind of this holy grail announcement. I mean, when that was announced, I remember this was kind of at the peak of my Metroid fandom when I was going back and playing all these different games that were on GBA and Super Nintendo and stuff like that, and just really falling in love with this series. I'd played Samus in Smash. She's been my main for probably a very long time, like probably 7 or 8 years at this point, across different games. And I was really in love with this series, and I had always kind of assumed that we would see another 2D Metroid, but the fact that it was Metroid Dread in particular, I think regardless of what you feel about this game and its place in the Metroid canon or its quality, this announcement was really something special. Like Nintendo, it's rare, I think, for Nintendo to kind of maybe not directly acknowledge the speculation and fan hype and kind of just deeply rooted fan consensus about something in the way that it seems like they did with this Metroid Dread reveal.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's actually another trailer that I think is not to the same level as like Smash Ultimate or Mario Odyssey, but I think this is a really well-paced trailer in terms of they announced that, okay, Prime 4 is... we're doing something with it. But here, in the meantime, is another Metroid game, the first 2D Metroid game in 19 years at that point. And Samus drops down Metroid 5. We get a little bit of interesting CGI. We reveal that it's a 2D game, that it looks really good. That, okay, obviously this is built in that same vein as Samus Returns was. The Emmys are tracking you. And then Metroid Dread. More gameplay, and then it's coming in October. I think that they really knew the Metroid 5 part, they revealed the 2D part, they revealed the name, they revealed the release date. It was a bunch of like moments of like, and then it came out and it was an amazing game. And like, this is one of those ones where like they knew what they had, and they knew how to deliver it in a way that was internally satisfying.
Yeah. And not only that, but like the vibes of it were so immaculate. Like there was a little controversy when it was first revealed, just because people who wanted specifically Prime 4 were like, "Oh, did this take away from that coming out Salzburg?" Which is not how things work.
You really have to not know how development works.
Yeah, but like if you've paid close attention to the franchise, there were so many cool things about that reveal. Like first off, the fact that like Dread was a pitched name ages ago, so like seeing that come back up was so cool. And then not only that, but like one of the major influences on Metroid as a franchise, as an IP, not always reflected in the gameplay, but is certainly there in tone, is Alien. And the way Emmy captures that vibe of like an alien monster from the films.
Yeah.
Perfection. Like that tone set and just introduction, so good. So good.
Banger.
Yeah.
Absolute banger. My God.
And I think that it was supplemented pretty nicely with other game reveals in terms of, I remember watching this showcase live. I have a reaction to it on the BLB Archives channel. And actually, a little self-plug, I just uploaded a compilation of every Nintendo Direct reaction that I've done in the last 4 years. It is 2 hours long. And so if you want to go watch me be excited about things and be disappointed in things, you have a 2-hour video that I just uploaded. But I remember when I was watching this, and then in the conversation that Aim and I had afterward, talking about how this Direct felt like a fake E3 Direct leak of Metroid Dread. Oh, sure, buddy. We're getting Mario Party Superstars. That is a collection of all the old boards and no horseshit minigames and horseshit like structure stuff. Oh, sure, buddy. Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild 2 reveal trailer. Oh, Advance Wars is back. It's like Tekken and Smash. Like
Advance Wars.
These are a lot of things that felt like pie in the sky, ridiculous fan requests, and so it felt very fan servicey in that way of Metroid Dread and Mario Party returning to the formula that people had really been wanting, and WarioWare is in there as well, which isn't. I like Get It Together quite a bit, but it's not. Any particular way on that scale,
that one was one that in retrospect didn't hit as well because it was like finally got WarioWare again, and it was like fine. It wasn't bad. It was just they went for a different gimmick that didn't work out quite as well. And then we got to celebrate later on. I don't think it was a Summer Direct, but then they were like, "Hey, we're bringing back a motion control based one," and then it's like, yes.
No, it was. We'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, it was the 23s. Okay, we'll get there. Yeah. We'll get there. Yeah. The one thing that I always like remember a bit about 21, it's like almost a sour note. And look, not everyone was in their best place mentally during these years. Like 2021, everyone's under a lot more stress. I remember as good as this one is in retrospect, there was so much anger about some aspects of it. Again,
there was a lot of vitriol.
Really? There was a lot of vitriol because, again, the Dread thing where some people were like, "Oh, did this impact Prime 4?" And it's like, no. And then I know the Zelda one. Part of it was because so much happened for 35th that people were really holding out for, like, "Oh, we're gonna get like a Zelda 3D collection or something," and instead we get Skyward Sword HD full price game. They released the Game and Watch thing that was Zelda. And then we got the gameplay. And then I think, did we also get DLC for Hyrule Warriors? Was that part of it too? Yeah, so like there was a healthy bit of like, hey, like here's all Zelda stuff. It didn't feel like it was quite as much as Mario got. And because people want to have that comparison and then the full price Skyward Sword thing, because it's like 3 Mario games for full price, 1 Zelda game.
There
was so much vitriol, but like it was good stuff in the end.
Oh, totally.
And I think that also contributes, like especially the Zelda part towards the end, really contributed to I think what this Direct's biggest issue was pacing, and I think the pacing really kind of highlighted some of the bigger cracks in this presentation in a way that I think disappointed people more than it would have if the Direct was laid out differently.
Yeah, I do have to say that I think my biggest complaint, and this is going to sound ridiculous because I think Tears of the Kingdom is one of the best games ever made, but I don't really like that trailer. I think it's really underwhelming for waiting for 4 years at that point. And we only got like 30 seconds of seemingly kind of like the obvious stuff. I mean, kind of the only like interesting things that were in there that were surprising was like, oh, he's doing like what we learned came to learn was Ascend. He's like, oh, he's going through the rocks and like the rewind and all that. There was a couple quick seconds of the abilities. But other than that, it was just going around the open world and paragliding. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking know. It was so quick, and then we didn't know the name, we didn't know the year. Like I think it was a weird way to end it with a game that got better trailers as it went on. That gave us a really weird marketing cycle.
I think the Tears of the King trailer, because I agree with you, it was not one of their better trailers. Like it was just like, here's something. Yeah. And I think that was Nintendo feeling the pressure of like, we announced a very large game right before pandemic. Yeah. Didn't know pandemic was going to be a thing. That heavily impacts their development cycle. They're not even sure still when they're going to actually be able to fully release it. Yeah. And people are asking, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, people are already asking about a lot of different games, but this is Zelda. This is like your number 2 big franchise that is iconic to your brand, you know?
Well, and also especially because that was one that felt like it could come soon. From what we knew of it, it's like, oh, same engine, same map. Like, it could be an asset reusing sequel like many games Nintendo has done. That why is it taking so long? There was no reason that we knew of why it was taking so long. Of course, in retrospect, knowing the way they redid the physics and that they expanded the map by about 3 times, it makes sense that we know that. But we didn't know that until like a month before the game came out. And so there was multiple years of like, where's this goddamn game? Why is it taking so long? You already made the map. Yeah. You already made the engine. You already made the graphics. What's going on?
Exactly, yeah.
And so the trailer didn't really help.
Yeah, it's that mixture of expectations, and I think, especially because it was also the 35th anniversary for the brand coming up, so like they had to be like, look, are we going to just like go with another summer direct and just not talk about it? Are people going to be okay with us going Skyward Sword HD? Here's this play and watch. We'll talk about Breath of the Wild later, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild later, right? I agree it wasn't the strongest move, but I also don't know if not doing that was really any better. I think it was just a rock and a hard place situation of like, I don't think they wanted to reveal the actual exciting things about that game until they really had a better idea of when it was on track to launch. And so it was just, do we give scraps or do we don't? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know,
like it. Scraps.
Yeah, exactly. So like, here's something.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about 2021, Charlie?
No, I mean, listen, you can say whatever you want. I can have any kind of criticism about this direct, but at the end of the day, it is the direct that gave me Metroid Dread, and that'll like, always be forever special. Going to be one of my favorite moments of like any presentation like this ever. But no, I mean, I feel like you guys have both been like hitting the nail on the head, right? It had these pacing issues. Some of the showings for games that could have shown much better maybe weren't super up to snuff, but there were also like still very much a lot of COVID related restrictions and things that were kind of kneecapping what Nintendo was able to do, and especially like promise that they would be able to do. So yeah, but I don't think that I really have much more to say beyond that. Now what? I don't think I have much more to say about this next one either, to be honest with you guys.
I was going to ask, actually, this should have been a pre-thing maybe, and we can leave this in recording or not. What are we counting as a Summer Direct for 22? Because they have, there's a partner direct, and then there's a dedicated Xenoblade 3. Are those two halves of one Summer Direct?
Wait, when was that Xenoblade one?
Yeah, the Xenoblade one was in the summer.
Okay, yeah. Well, so
I don't know if it was June. It might have been July. Let me double check.
I don't think we count the Xenoblade one. I mean, it's Xenoblade stuff. It's Xenoblade 3. It goes deep into that game. But really, especially since we talked about the partner showcase in 2020, I think it's fair to do the same here. June 22nd. Okay, yeah. So 6 days before the partner showcase, we do Xenoblade. But then in what is the big thing that they presented during summer of 2022 is another Nintendo Direct mini partner showcase. And this is an interesting one that they didn't have an actual direct, because I think this for my money is the best partner showcase we've ever done, as I'll go through the announcements. But also, it's not like 2022 is lacking for games. So like, what happened? You do a Xenoblade 3 thing? Do a Splatoon 3 thing? Do a trailer for Pokemon? Do a trailer for?
I have theories on this one a little bit. We'll talk. Yeah, let's go through what was announced actually, and then we can talk theories of why it worked out the way it did.
Sure. Yeah. So in the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase of June 28th, 2022, they open on Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. Big information about that. Nier being ported to Switch. Actually, hey, hell yeah. Laura and Laser Eyes was revealed here. I did not remember that. I just beat that game.
I don't remember
that
either.
One of the best games I've ever played.
Me neither.
Go play that game.
Wow. Yeah.
This is one of the strongest recommendations I've ever given. Go play Laura and Laser Eyes if you're a puzzle fan. If you're not, stay away from it.
I've heard nothing but incredible things. I need to get to it. And 17 other games.
Sure,
right.
Yeah. Super Bomberman R2, a game that no one has ever talked about. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. That's kind of a tongue twister. Pac-Man World Repack. Interesting surprise there. What the hell is this? Return to Monkey Island. Gets a pretty solid thing there. Then here's some information about Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which is, of course, it is a third-party game, but it has that first-party Mario game feel to it. So that gets a pretty solid showing. Nail Grade. I haven't even heard of that. Well, obviously I have heard of it because I've watched the showcase. Sonic Frontiers gameplay. So you remember Sonic Frontiers that summer? You remember how they rolled out that game? That was bizarre. Oh, that was
weird. Yeah, that was another weird media
playing
cycle.
That game broke me. My God.
Disney Dreamlight Valley, Live Alive. I think that must have been the reveal. No, that must have been earlier.
It came out, reveal was February of that year.
Yeah, because it came out in August or July or something like that.
It was like late summer. It was like August, I think. Yeah.
Dragon Quest Treasures, I believe that would have been the reveal of that. No Man's Sky, Portal Companion Collection, very interesting. I actually kind of want to focus on that one in a bit. Harvestella from our friends at Square Enix, and then ending on the announcement of Persona 3, 4, and 5 coming to Nintendo Switch. So a lot of stuff in there, all third-party stuff. But because it's a partner showcase, but I think that this is the best partner showcase. They've got the collections, they've got the ports of anticipated games, they've got DLC for massive games, they've got big games that are like Nintendo more directly partners, like Ubisoft is showing off a big trailer for Sparks of Hope. I think this kind of covers all the bases, and for me is the best partner showcase. Yeah,
that's valid. I mean, I feel like that's also not a extremely high bar to clear is part of the issue. Because and it's weird because I never want to feel too spoiled on this point, but it's like sometimes late ports, I get why it's a big deal to some people, but then other times it's like, this is a wonderful game and I'm so happy it's coming to more people. Yeah. But also I have played it a few times. Yeah, it's like so like the Persona reveal, because that wasn't even the reveal that all those games were getting multi-platform. That was like, hey, it's been multi-platform now for everyone else, and now it's Nintendo's turn. And like Nier went through multiple stages of being ported. And so it's a weird situation because it's like if you haven't invested in any other platforms and Nintendo is all you have, there is some beautiful news here of like you finally are able to play certain titles. Yeah. But at the same time, it does, I think, undercut the hype a little bit for those games. Totally. but even with that in mind, there still was awesome stuff. I mean, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak was a big deal, of course. Me personally, Return to Monkey Island was like a peak moment. Like that was just like, oh shit, like we're actually getting a proper new one, with the original creator involved. So like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Which is a very specific, like it was me and 8 other people just like, yeah. Everyone else is like, what are point and clicks always have a very strange reception, but so good. It's an interesting year overall. I would certainly agree best partner direct, but that also it's an interesting bar to clear.
Yeah.
Charlie, what are your thoughts?
Very. I love a lot of these third-party reveals. I wish they were bookended or kind of supplemented by something else, but no, I completely agree. I don't think that there is a version of a Nintendo third-party presentation of any kind that has been better than this. I mean, really.
We had a partner showcase earlier
this
year that I think is maybe the only rival to it. The one where Endless Ocean was revealed, but also a bunch of stuff.
I think something that we haven't really brought up yet is that this does answer a lot of questions that were being brought up at the time, especially with the Persona ports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back when during the Xbox showcase when these Persona ports were revealed, it was kind of a moment, right? Absolutely. It was like, oh, why are they coming to Xbox and not Nintendo? And there were some other, if I remember correctly, there were some other questions that were maybe less significant that involved third-party games that were in this partner showcase that did answer these questions.
So
it fed into
not only when are they remaking Pac-Man World? And finally, we knew.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Scott
I'm always saying
probably
this.
Lost his mind, But no, like I think it's good not only as a partner direct, but also as a thing that is answering questions and continuing a story that has already kind of been started, which is I think something that Nintendo Directs are generally pretty good at, where they will start. It's usually a 3-act thing, right? For any big important game, you have the reveal, the gameplay trailer, and then the release trailer in most of Nintendo's bigger things. And it kind of felt like it was actually showcasing some of these bigger games in a more serious way.
Yeah, and I mean that plays into also I think the kind of redirected strategy for like COVID on, right? Is them sticking to a closer schedule of like, let's not announce this thing that's coming out in 4 years. Yeah. And I think that's also why this year ended up being kind of a weird one with, not having a traditional direct. They ended up just being like, okay, we'll have the partner direct, and then a week prior, here's a dedicated Xenoblade 3 direct, because that is the one first-party thing we're really going to push right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a combination of them playing things closer to the chest. They want to wait till they really know something is on track for release within whatever window, 6 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
And this is where we're hitting the point where timeline-wise, again, probably not to whatever original schedule was set however many years ago, but this is timeline-wise where they're probably starting to think about, okay, when are we releasing our next thing? Like, where in the content cycle is it time to release? And which has been a very popular talking point with lots of people. Constant rumors and theorizing, and Switch 2 is at the end of this year. Never mind, now it's March of 25, and now it's, who knows? But I think this is around the time when Nintendo, on the back end, is really tackling that question, especially with development pushbacks in mind. And they just had to call it at that point of being like, Xenoblade 3, that's what we got.
Yeah.
We'll give it its own dedicated thing, and then we'll partner direct.
The month after Xenoblade, they did a direct for a game-specific direct for Splatoon 3. The 31 minutes Splatoon 3 information. I had like a thing in the back of my mind, like, did that happen? I'm like, okay, yeah, it did.
But so there you go. But even then, so that's like their 2 games, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The 2 big things, and so it's like, we'll give them their own things, and then
now we only have one final direct to go over, which is the final summer Nintendo Direct of the Switch era, which is the 2023 one, which for my money, this is the second best of these directs that we've talked about. And this is my second favorite. I think that this might actually be the most new first-party announcements we've ever gotten in a single direct. And I think that is for one very specific reason, and a reason why this direct stands out so much to me is they announced basically nothing in February 2023. The only new game reveal there was a Metroid Prime remaster, which is not a new game, but it's a new game. And then they saved basically everything for the second half of the year till June, so we didn't know anything up to this. And I was looking down the barrel of like, oh, I don't really know how this is going to go. But
no, I remember like the tone going into that direct was so people being like, I mean, this happens every time we're getting ready for the next announcement wave, especially with companies now, I think, trying to be a little more coy until the last second. But there were so many people going into that direct where they're just like, man, this year sucks. They're not going to have anything. Like, I agree this is a really good direct because it's also like, I feel like the energy going into this one versus the energy going out was probably some of the most like, gotcha, like surprise, especially because 23 overall was such a good year everywhere else. I mean, like first party wise, it was kind of a mess both for Xbox and PlayStation, but third party companies, multi-platform releases, PC stuff, indie stuff, incredible year. You know? And so like Nintendo kind of had this rough start and then it's like, oh, never mind, 23 might be like one of the best years for the Switch aside from like the
for
start.
Nintendo ever. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the one that turned it around because going into this, we knew obviously we had some games come out and actually they had a really good first part of the year to that point. Kirby and Fire Emblem and Zelda, and then we knew Pikmin was coming, but there were so many empty slots for the second half of the year. And to quickly go through what was shown, Sonic Superstars had been revealed at SGF, but that got a trailer there. Persona 5 Tactica was there, which that had been leaked.
And was at SGF prior,
And then Detective Pikachu Returns, and formally
came back.
Here. I don't know if you guys remember, but that game. That game had been soft announced in like 2017 or no 2018 I think it was
2018 I think it was a while because it was around the same time they announced Let's Go I think
exact same like Game Freak investor conference. What the hell was that? They haven't done one of those since or like revealed stuff. That was a weird thing.
Well, they've just done Pokemon Directs or whatever since.
Exactly. Super Mario RPG remake announced there, and then another weird ass thing. Soft revealing Luigi Mansion 2 HD and Prince of Peach Showtime. And those games wouldn't come out until 8 months to a year later. Very, very strange they did that. But again, that's two first-party reveals there. The Arkham Collection coming to Switch. Metal Gear Solid Collection coming to Switch. I believe also... what is this? Dragon Quest Monsters. Pikmin 4, pretty big gameplay blowout here, which I thought was really, really good, showing off the glow Pikmin for the first time. Metal Gear Solid Collection, as I mentioned. Vampire Survivors, very good get for the system. Penny Pick Breakaway, shown off here. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. Now, this is an interesting one because this was the first time they revealed multiple characters in a single wave. Both Kamek and Wiggler, I believe, were the ones in here. And also a new map, the bathroom course, was in that one.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun one.
The trailer for Star Ocean, the reveal of Where We Move It is here, and then Wonder, ending with Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And so the reason that this is so big for me is, again, the going in and coming out of just knowing the 2023 lineup, which is so chock full. And when we finish this presentation, Detective Pikachu, Mario Wonder, Super Mario RPG, Wario Move It, that's 4 games announced, plus 2 more that were coming down into 2024.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
And the third-party support coming out the same year, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love this story.
Just so much. I'm still catching up from games that came out last year. Like, I'm
not
deep, and even like just from the Switch, but like not to mention every other platform. My God, I mean,
23 was a huge year.
Yeah,
just in general for releases. There's behind the scenes is a bit more rough, but release wise, and I think this also plays into that whole thing about COVID messing up schedules. I feel like 23 was like the final big push hurrah of like, all right, all this stuff that was originally like 21 or 22 slated, like. We're done.
I think it was really what it was the games that had just started development in 2020 that got completely derailed and had to backpedal in late 2021, 2022. They got their footing, and then everyone put out their game in 2023.
Yeah. But overall, very solid showcase. Like, absolutely. And good surprises, too. I mean, Super Mario RPG, that was one that... I don't remember if that one got leaked or not, but it was... even pre-leak, like... I don't think that one was leaked, but like that's one of those ones.
I don't think so either.
No,
yeah.
And that's what makes that one such a surprise too, because you know that was the original game was a Square Enix title. It was a third party, Nintendo published thing, and Square Enix and Nintendo's history together is weird, to say the least. There's a very interesting. I've thought about doing a whole story on like how that flow's gone over the years, because
that would be cool.
Like, you know, they like Square keeps releasing games on Nintendo, but the tone's always been weird for a while. And so that was a game where when it came to the question of like remake or port or bring it back in some way, no one was really sure it would happen.
Yeah.
And so seeing a remake like that announced was such a big like, oh, like that's actually happening. I did not think so. Gino exists again. Like
right.
outside of the weird body proportion Smash Ultimate costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that reveal in particular, I mean, beyond the history of it, I think there was a lot of assumption that was kind of a game that would be lost to time, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but that never came to Switch Online. I mean, it hit the Super Nintendo Classic, but aside from that, it didn't hit Switch Online, and I think there was kind of a general consensus.
Do you know if it was on Virtual Console?
I think it was on Virtual
Console.
Pretty
sure it was.
I'm pretty sure it was Virtual Console.
But I think that there was a general vibe that it wouldn't ever hit Switch Online, and knowing Nintendo's unwillingness to do anything like a Virtual Console, I think this was kind of one of the games that people assumed would never come back, would never see the light of day during at least the Switch era. And so I think that kind of really adds to the surprise, on top of the fact that it didn't leak, which leaks were really, really prevalent for this Direct, if I remember correctly.
I have to Uno reverse. You activated my trap card because I talked a lot about leaks for this Direct in specific, because this was the first time Pyro ever leaked anything. And Pyro leaked Mario Wonder, leaked Super Mario RPG, leaked Detective Pikachu. And I know for a fact that Pyro leaked Super Mario RPG because in my reaction to that game, Abram is like, oh, I'm so happy, specifically because he knew that because Mario RPG was real, then Mario Wonder would also be real. And so...
That was like kind of early Pyro time, right? Because we didn't really know track record yet. No, so that was
first
why,
time I ever heard of Pyro, I think.
Yeah, so like it did leak, but it wasn't like reliably believed yet.
True.
Was part of I think the situation.
But was very, very heavily, at least from my circles, talked about the Pyro leak.
Sure.
Like, what is all this stuff?
It was talked about, but I feel like it wasn't given the cadence that obviously Pyro
has now.
Now you're just like, oh, like this is happening then.
Yes, absolutely. But it's interesting to see that this Direct, which again, lots of new announcements here, lots of first party or published reveals here, and it being as leaked as it was because of Pyro, now paints it in an interesting light backwards. Of Pyro is a consistent force now, and I'm sure we'll see them again in just about 2 weeks' time.
There's going to be a random image with no other context, and everyone's going to play guessing games. Yep.
Oh my god! I do have to admit...
Let's just say fans of the produce aisle will be very excited about this Direct.
I do have to admit, though, that the fact that Pyro leaked this, and even though Pyro wasn't a known quantity at that point, but was something that I at least had been exposed to a lot of conversation about this, disappointed me a little bit, because I'm someone who really does not like these things. I'm not a fan of the way that Pyro has disrupted the flow of announcements, because basically everything isn't a surprise anymore. So, of course, Mario Wonder reveal looks great, comes out, great game. We didn't know about the Wonder mechanic. Like, we didn't know what it was, but...
Yeah, and you didn't know it visually either, which I think is a big part of that game.
Yeah. But I remember being like, okay, yeah, this is a great Direct. But it was soured a bit for me. Because I can't even imagine how exciting it would have been to have no idea that a new 2D Mario game, the first truly new 2D Mario game in a decade, was about to be revealed. But I knew about it going in, so I was like, I don't know. I'm very an anti.
That's why I do my best to and that's why I would do my best to tune a lot of stuff out. Like I've done like speculation videos before sometimes where someone will be like, oh well, this already leaked, and I'm like, that's cool. Not reading it.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to talk about what we might see, not see, and I'm not interested in. And especially because like leak culture. This is a whole other topic, but like even with consistent people, stuff isn't always 100%. Sometimes plans change. At what point did you learn your information? There's so much more complexity to it than I think some people treat, because the moment someone has established like, oh, you're a leaker, it's just a headache of how that impacts every conversation moving forward, you know?
Yeah,
That's a whole, this is a whole other sewer we can jump down.
It's funny because like, being on the journalistic side and being on the reporting side, like there are definitely things that I've known about that I refuse to talk about in a public setting because I don't want to be, Jeff Grubb with these kids in my replies asking me where the PlayStation
Jesus
Showcase
Christ.
is every single day of May until it gets announced, which is insane.
I absolutely love his
chill.
victory lap this morning, though. It's so good.
Oh my
It's
god.
so good.
Shout out to Jeff. Oh my god. What a dude.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, just that's a whole, yeah.
We got to run a little bit talking about leaks and rumors, but again, I think that this is a really consistent direct. Another actually interesting element
really strong,
that we didn't mention, but is that the first wave of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's DLC was revealed here, which Pokemon news reveal-wise hadn't almost ever happened. And then, of course, there was Pokemon mentions. We talked a little about Let's Go was shown off in 2018, a little bit of Sword and Shield in 2019, but Pokemon is almost never in actual directs. And we got two major reveals Pokemon related here, being Scarlet and Violet Teal Mask DLC and the Detective Pikachu 2 Returns game. So it's interesting that Pokemon Company eschewed having their own specific presentation for basically the first time. We've almost always gotten a summer showcase from Game Freak and from Pokemon Company, and glommed it on here. But it, again, also just bolsters this direct and gives it its own unique flavor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ditto.
No, I mean it is cool because it's kind of like showing that even this late into the Switch era with so many like formulaic things that Nintendo has nailed down, they're still like interested in and willing to kind of like break the mold and like get a little like have a little bit of fun with the structure and do some surprising stuff. Kevin, it seemed like I cut you off there. What were you going to add?
Oh no, I was similar point. Just talking about, I think, especially with the example of Pokemon. Like, yeah, traditionally, Pokemon's shown up, but it's always been like updates on things that were like, hey, we revealed this 2 weeks ago, and just as a reminder,
exactly.
Pokeball, whatever. Like, yeah, like they've done that always, but this was the first one in a while where Pokemon felt like it had an actual pretty strong presence.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is just because of, it might have been an internal thing of like, well, how much do we have for a Pokemon Direct? Maybe we just roll this in this year, maybe this just plays a part of the rest, and then we'll build up to next gen the following year, because I mean, who could possibly predict when the next Pokemon generation cycle could begin based on the historical trends? Yeah. And like part of, not to jump to the next subject right away, and I don't know how long we want to spend on this, but part of what makes 23 very interesting to me in retrospect is what it could also mean for this year, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's so much general negativity about how like this is, we already know Nintendo has confirmed they do have something on the way in the future, next fiscal year, whatever. So clearly the Switch is now done. Like, what else could they even have at this point? And while I don't think we're going to have necessarily like surprise 24 is the best launch cycle of Nintendo first party games, but like I feel like there's something still, or at least the potential of it, much more than I think some people give credit, because this was the same vibe going into 23.
It was.
Switch is been at 6 years old now. Like,
the vibe going in was bad, as we talked about before at the beginning of this section. But it was also bad for one particular reason, because a lot of rumors have been going around at the beginning of the year that Tears of the Kingdom was going to be the last major release for the system, and obviously that's not true, because Mario Wonder...
Well, it also depends on your definition of like major release, right? Like, it's a game that takes this much budget and this much time to develop, which again, this is where the leaker thing comes in, right? Because it's like context. It's, what does that actually mean? Like, when a company says this, what does that mean? Even this year, that's like a thing with Sony where they did, this fiscal year we have no brand new AAA games within established franchises. And it's like, cool, that doesn't mean nothing's getting announced.
Sure.
They have smaller project stuff. They have new IPs. There are things that can get announced.
Yeah.
It's just like the context matters here,
Absolutely.
And so for sure, like that was part of 23 was like, Zelda's the last big game. It's like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it definitely meant that I was not expecting new 2D Mario, and then new 2D Mario happened, and it was fucking amazing.
And that shows how Nintendo values 2D Mario in comparison.
Yeah.
I also I think we're in a different spot too now, because we have a firmer idea of what's happening after the Switch, right, this year, and I think there is maybe less optimism and more skepticism than I think there was last year, where people are just like, what more could there possibly be, right? And I think, firstly, Metroid Prime 4 is probably going to show up this year, and I think it's going to be... I really do think it's going to be a cross-gen game. I think it's going to come out like late next year with some kind of patch whenever the Switch 2 launches, and it's going to be kind of like this spearhead for a handful of interesting like updates of some kind or another to the major releases of the Switch era. But no, I mean, like, I don't want to get too into Switch 2 speculation, but next year is the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Series. There's no way in hell that we don't get the next system launching with a 3D Mario, in my opinion. Like, I genuinely would be so shocked if it launched without one. Yeah. And I think Metroid Prime 4 would be cool to save until then. But I think it's more likely to be one of those like holiday season games that's going to get a really big push from Nintendo.
For sure, yeah. I think a launch title like a new Super Mario Brothers, that's probably wouldn't be this direct yet, because they're not even officially, like, they've officially acknowledged there's another system, but they're not going to really talk about actually it itself until probably late summer, if at the soonest, more likely like end of the year, early next year. Yeah. Like, even just kind of rumblings, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
this
as far as
just the 2024 summer, because I think I come down the similar side of you, Kevin, is I do think that there will be surprises here. Nintendo is in such an interesting spot right now where almost all of the games coming out this year are strange for some reason or another, but they have to have something, because they're convinced that they can sell 13 million Nintendo Switches this year, and that is only 2 million down from last year where they had new 2D Mario and 3D Zelda. So there has to be something that we're not expecting to push this fiscal year to something where people are buying new copies and new systems, or new games and new systems. So I'm going in with low expectations, because I don't think that this is going to match next year, or frankly almost any of the other good directs that we've had. Of course, we'll surpass 2022
better than 2020,
but I'm not cautiously optimistic. I think I'm reasonably optimistic. I'm holding back, but I'm also pushing forward a little bit.
You're not pinning your hopes on this being like the big, you know, surprise final blowout, but like there's got to be something, right? Just a little something. I'm not, you know, I think as far as just speculating things, I know one thing that has been talked about, rumored for a while, that I would like to see. You know, Fire Emblem goes in cycles of major new entries, and then sometimes they'll do like a smaller remake. Has been the kind of trend for a little while. Engage broke that up a little bit because it was meant to be like an anniversary title, and at least based on dev codes, it sounds like it may have jumped ahead in the line from what was originally going to happen. But there's been long talk of a Fire Emblem 4 remake, and so if that's something that's kind of just been ready and in the back pocket, I can see
as far as we know, it's been ready for like 3 years or whatever.
As far as I mean, it's been talked about for a while, and again, its dev code was supposed to be if you know previous rumors are true, the dev code would be lower than what Engage's was.
And I think this like that is a great example of a very like safe, surefire thing to really bolster a first party lineup for a year. I mean, when was the last time we got a full scale, like, we had Engage and that was like a thing, but I think it wasn't on the same level as Three Houses. I haven't played it, but I get the impression that it wasn't the coming out party that Three Houses was.
It's
and
different.
I get the vibe that this remake could be a much bigger deal than Engage.
I don't think that's
to old school fans probably, but I wouldn't say to the general audience. I would say especially like I would say a lot of the post Awakening crowd. Huh?
It's certainly not going to outsell Engage.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how it's marketed, and I think a little bit of that depends on the presentation of it and what it looks like. You know, as much as I would like it, I could see it not doing as well as if they go for like an art style similar to Shadows of Valentia. As cool as that would be to me, it kind of depends on how they want to position it. Yeah, I think it potentially could, but I mean, Engage certainly did great.
Well, we talked about all of these directs. We've talked about a little bit about the upcoming one. I think we all pretty much agree that it won't be one of the best ones, but there's room to surprise us, and we will be back on this channel, not necessarily on this show in particular, but to talk about what was revealed there and how we're feeling about it, how we're feeling about the end of the year. But we do have one final segment, and that is Friend Code, where we read out the responses and messages from the members of our community talking about this topic and bringing in some outside opinions. And Charlie, why don't you start with reading a couple from your Twitter responses?
So I'm gonna try and lump a few of them together, but I think starting in chronological order, I think there is a lot of hype and excitement around the 2017 Direct, right? Whether you have people like Thomas Francisi talking about Metroid Prime 4, saying that he remembers that when the LA Convention Center was shaking when they announced Metroid Prime 4, which is insane, because if you've seen the LACC, that is a big building. That is like
multiple wings,
huge. Yeah, like that is where the entire old E3 was, and to get something so exciting that the entire like complex is shaking is very impressive, and I think speaks to how hyped this was. Going to another 2017 moment, we have Eric Ashley at Kiss My Flapjack saying gets overlooked, but probably 2017's full trailer for Super Mario Odyssey. Yeah. It looked amazing. My jaw was on the floor, and that theme song, topped off by that earlier than expected release date of October. Yeah, and I think, like, again, we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum, but those two being kind of the big stingers in that Direct are such memorable moments that, like, especially the Odyssey trailer. I mean, I think anyone will go back and watch that and just revel in how good and exciting that trailer was.
Yeah.
Tucker, do you have any from the Discord from 2017?
No, actually. So, oh wait, hold on.
No.
Well, Scruffy mentions a little bit. It's hard to escape the E3 memories, and 2017 was a particularly solid one. The Mario Odyssey reveal trailer is still one of my favorite Nintendo trailers of all time. Due to how surprising the capture mechanic was when it was completely hidden in the first trailer of the game. Again, that is kind of really why I think it hits so different for me. We're so used to getting one of you guys were talking about this. I can't remember which one it was, but the release cadence of teaser or announcement trailer, gameplay reveal, launch trailer. But usually the gameplay trailer, the middle one, is cool, is good, but it's not like, oh shit, this like changes my worldview of what this game is going to be. But I really do think that the Odyssey trailer did that. They held back something really major about that game and made that second trailer feel just as special, if not more special, than the reveal trailer of that game, which is really impressive and something that does not happen very often. And actually, another example of that, not a summer thing, but is again Tears of the Kingdom. The best trailer for that game was the one that was not in a Direct. It was the one they showed off, 3 weeks before the game came out? And it was edited with all the hype music and showing off the mechanics and the characters and the dungeons and stuff. It's when they hold back something really interesting that allows you to get two great trailers. So, yeah, obviously that's a phenomenal moment.
Moving forward a little bit to... Oh, actually, sorry. I missed one. Joey Ferris from Game Explained said, "You already know what mine is," in reference to Metroid Prime 4. Yeah. This dude, I'm hoping and praying beyond all hopes.
For his own sake.
For his own sake. More than anything else that Metroid Prime 4 shows up this year. This dude, I don't know if I've seen a tweet of his that isn't about Metroid Prime 4 or like watched a Game Explained video where he doesn't bring it up. This dude is locked in. He needs some Metroid Prime 4. So please, Nintendo, just give it to him. Come on.
Just save the
for
man.
Joey.
I do have one I actually have two about 2022. Again, from Scruffy. Scruffy says, 2021 was also a hugely exciting one. Dread was a huge game to drop, and it was fun to see Nintendo know that the reveal of Dread was going to be a huge moment for that fan base. I remember being in a voice chat when Dread was revealed, and I nearly fell over. The Summer Directs have always been really solid across the board. Ultimate's reveal, Tears of the Kingdom, etc. And then also Nishquick says, my favorite has to be 2021. Metroid Dread was a myth, and to see it come to life was fantastic. Also, finally seeing Shin Megami Tensei 5 in action was amazing. Demerit, Nishquick. The 2020 partner showcase.
And to get another,
or was that just
2020 partner showcase was?
Did not have gameplay. Oh, do I get the?
It didn't have gameplay. It was CG trailer. It was all cutscenes.
Shit. I get a demerit.
There might have been some gameplay, but it was like divorced of context and very brief. Yeah. 21 was like we're showing you gameplay.
Yeah. You know what? I remerit you, Nishquick, and frankly, I give myself a demerit. That was an aggressive demeriting on my point.
I think that's a double demerit.
Oh shit! Oh, am I ever gonna recover from this?
We're gonna have to keep a tally of this. I don't know, Tucker. We're gonna have to.
But
the council will have things to say about this one.
To wrap up, what Nishquick said, I remember also after years and years of anticipation, Breath of the Wild 2. Seeing Link skydive from so high and right after being reminded how Skyward Sword was coming was really magical. I also remember seeing Breath of the Wild 2 and the sky parts blowing me away so much because I had never considered that we would even go up there. And of course, all the speculation and theories that followed were amazing too. Yeah, great moments.
I want to get another one about Metroid Dread.
Of course.
From Abram Booner, friend of the show, co-host, co-creator of the channel.
Correct. Yes.
What I don't know which to introduce him as, but he says it's got to be the reveal of Metroid Dread. Tucker can testify to the enthusiasm of my reaction. Yeah. Such a great trailer. First you get the Metroid 5 text, then you get the Metroid Dread title drop, then you get the October date. I mean, yeah, really, like, we talked about how well paced that trailer is already, but it might be that's a very hard one to beat, right? I think it's up there with the Everyone Is Here moment and the Odyssey kind of reboot for me.
Yeah, great lineup. And there's one final one coming from Logan Plant, who mentions the last one, which is Everyone Is Here. He says, one of the best shock reveals ever, followed by a masterful presentation from Sakurai, one of the best ever. Absolutely. Yeah, we got to talk about quite a few of those.
Peak moment.
But that wraps up our discussion of summer showcases during the Nintendo Switch era. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us. What I love about having conversations with people I don't know and then realizing, oh shit, they know their shit just like I do. That's a special moment. And you know your shit.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for stoking my ego that I am a person, that I know things. I'm allowed to talk about stuff on the internet.
Knower of things, container of multitudes.
But any closing thoughts? You want to plug your channel, Kevin, or share any final thoughts about E3 hype, all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Okay, before I do the plug, quick thing would be not a summer direct, but I just want to share my favorite non-summer directs ever, because I think this actually was a comment on Twitter as well, and I agree with it. I already went off about the Trials of Mana reveal, live reveal. Yeah. One of the few times I've posted a video that was my live reaction, and that is the most I've lost my shit at a presentation ever. Like, that is a game that I never would have imagined even being talked about again. It didn't even sell well in Japan when it first came out. It's such a special, weird little title, and that reveal at the February Direct lost my mind. Just peak moment for me at any Direct ever.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm Kevin Kenson. You can find me under basically just that name wherever on socials, on YouTube. I have a side channel I've lightly been messing with that occasionally gets uploads called Next Side Quest. Someday we'll put more videos on it soon. I've said this in like 3 different podcasts and yet to put something up, but it will go up soon, I swear. And yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Kevin, also, if I'm not mistaken, you also have a video on a similar topic to this that you're working on. Is that correct?
Yes, because of us talking about this, I was like, I should really just talk about like past directs and ranking them, and maybe basically everything we've done distilled into just my own side of it, talking about it. So that is something I'm working on probably for next week, and don't worry, there will be a little shout out, because I mean, I didn't even think about doing it until we talked about doing this. So,
and you get both sides of the coin. We were talking a little YouTube algorithm before. You get the shorter, more edited, more scripted video on Kevin's channel, kind of condensing down all the stuff that we talk about, and they get the really, really, really long, in-depth conversation that we've had here today. We talked a little bit before, like, this is supposed to be an hour. This episode going up, not an hour long. I don't know if you guys noticed.
We'll see what the edited version comes down to, but we're hitting what?
I didn't remove very much.
Yeah, we're just about on top of 2 hours at this moment.
But that brings us to the end of episode 5 of the Nintendo Select Podcast, Nintendo Switch Retrospective and Nostalgia Podcast. Again, subscribe to Kevin Kenson. Go read one of the many reviews that Charlie will be putting up over the coming days and weeks. Summer Game Fest and
X-Defiant review, Game Informer. Go read it.
Will do.
It's okay. It's mid.
It's not my genre, but I'll read it to support you.
Thank you.
Go watch some of the other videos that we've been putting up. If you want E3 and Direct hype, we again edited 2 hours of reactions. If you wanted, I also did. God, it took so long, but I did all the time codes for that hour-long video. So if you want to just find a specific one, you can go in the description and find them all. But State of Play tomorrow, there will be, by the time this goes up, that we will have reacted to that. We will have discussed it. and Summer Game Fest stuff coming soon. So thank you very much, everyone, and all the new fans. This is the first episode going up. We're being recorded after the EPD video went up and has since made our channel 5 times bigger than it was before and gotten us about, something like 140,000 times more views than we had before. Something like that. But again, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kevin, for joining us, for being knowledgeable, and for talking about some fun stuff. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of Nintendo Select.